Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our look at the Astonishing X-Men. We're up to number 13 through 18, and of course this is the run written by Joss Whedon and drawn by John Cassaday. And I should also mention colors by Laura Martin because she's such a all-star on these. So let's check them out. A lot of shit hits the fan in these issues. Pretty intriguing, dramatic stuff going on. Pretty cool cover by John Cassaday here. And let's get into it. So we see start with the flashback. And we see Emma Frost meeting Cassandra. God damn it, I forgot her last name. I'll get to it in a second, though. Let's just call her Cassandra for now. Cassandra's like one of the world's most powerful psychics. And this is basically a little while ago. And Cassandra's making a deal with her. This is basically before Emma Frost joined the X-Men. This is before Genosha, the mutant massacre on Genosha. And also, we find out that Emma's ability to turn into a diamond hard toughness, that was given to her by Cassandra. And so this story arc is called Torn. And we see Wolverine. He's in charge of combat lessons for the little kids. He's, after their ordeal last time in the danger room, he's completely basically saying, like, you guys were total wussies. You gotta learn how to fight. And the kids say, yeah, but the danger room doesn't really work anymore without the, the Shi'ar technology and everything. Where's the danger? And Wolverine says he just turns out the lights. That's his answer. It's like there's plenty of danger when Wolverine's in the room. God, these faces are really well drawn. Now we see Scott Summers and Beast are talking in his laboratory. And now we go back to the danger room. I guess it's still a danger room as long as Wolverine's in it. And all the kids are in a dog pile. Wolverine just beats the crap out of all of them. And basically they all cry uncle. And we see that young girl, Hasuka, the one with the armor. She's kind of pissed off at Wolverine. Next we see Kitty and Peter in an idyllic setting. Everything looks great, but look at this coloring. I think you could almost tell something's off. Her father shows up, her dead father. She's like, Dad, you're alive. And of course, the reason why the coloring was like that, because this is a nightmare. The father this is pretty scary looking. He says, why did you let us die? She wakes up, Peter's there, and he comforts her. Now we see Emma hanging out with the Hellfire Club. And there's about 4 or 5 of them. This Sebastian Shaw, he was one of the earliest members of the Hellfire Club back in the Burn Run. He basically is the master of kinetic energy. Like, he can take any blow, and then he can throw it back at you. He absorbs kinetic energy. And this young goth-looking girl, she has a really ridiculous name, which hopefully I'll see in a second, and then I can tell you. And they also have this weird robed figure named Perfection, and we don't see her face. Now we see Shield director Hill, and she does not like Special Agent Brand of the Sword, and she basically says, you know, I'm on to you. You should have been court-martialed, but she can't do anything about it. I guess Brand's authority overrides hers. And Brand flies up to Sword's spacecraft. It's called the Peak. And now finally, Kitty is sitting there thinking about this whole Peter thing. And she decides to confront this issue head on. Goes to Peter's room. And basically she's just so frustrated that, you know, I don't even think they've kissed yet. And Peter grabs her and plants one on her. So it looks like the Hellfire Club are all around the X-Mansion, but nobody knows they're there. Of course, except for Emma. So Emma sees Scott. Scott's doing some busy work. She's like, please come to bed. She's got to convince him. And she says, I'm wearing your favorite outfit. So, and of course, if you guys don't know the X-Men, this is Phoenix, Scott Summers' dead lover. Pretty much the love of his life. So, not a smooth move. We'll see what happens next issue. Number 14, Wolverine making out with Emma. Man, if I was buying these off the shelves, I would have just been like, what the fuck? But there's an explanation. Not to spoil it. It's not as it seems. Oh man, these freaking colors. And so I believe this is a flashback. And we see Scott with Jean Grey. And then we cut back to the present. And there's Emma. Looking like a very weird Jean Grey. I like John Cassaday a lot, but a lot of these panels of Jean Grey do not like the way he draws her. She even turns into Dark Phoenix. Like, basically says, would you like a bad girl? And Scott is saying, I don't want to play games. This, I gotta say, this scene is written a little off. Because I think right around now, I know Scott loves Emma, but I think he would just be like really pissed off at this. But he's kind of going along with it. But man, the stuff she's telling him is kind of interesting. She basically says that not only did you always feel out of Jean's league, but, you know, you wish you could have been someone else, someone cooler. And she turns him into Logan. He checks himself out in the mirror, realizes what she did. And he's like, he says, you sick bitch. So things are getting serious here. And Scott pushes her away. She says, poor puppy, don't you remember you don't have any claws? Now we cut back to the TV room, which happens to be right under Peter's bedroom. This is a pretty funny scene. We see Kitty Pryde phase through the ceiling. She's completely naked and land on the floor. She grabs this little throw rug from the sofa and runs back upstairs. So I guess Peter and her finally had sex. And I guess when she orgasms, she phases. She can't help it. Now we're back to Emma and Scott. And this is just weird how Scott's just taking it. Instead of Scott saying, like, Emma, I don't know what the fuck you're doing tonight. You're being very weird. He's just kind of like letting her manipulate his mind and drive him more and more crazy. And this is an interesting thing. I don't know if any other writer ever brought this up. She basically says, Scott, why do you think Professor X picked you as the leader? You know, Hank was a genius. The Angel was like a god, looked like a god. Jean was a powerful psychic. And Charles Xavier always has a soft spot for them. Why did he pick you? And she says, it was out of pity. That's the only reason he picked you. He thought you'd wash out of school if you didn't have a little boost, a little something to live for. So she's totally chopping away at his mental defenses. But it is kind of interesting that, you know, Scott was this kind of reclusive nerd. Doesn't seem like the leader type. It's almost like, God, maybe she's right. And this is kind of weird. I don't quite get. She says, are you ready to go to the bug room? Now we're back at the peak. And we see Bram there. Talking to her fellow sword people. And it looks like they narrowed down the mutant. Specifically the X-Man who is going to destroy Breakworld. The guy shows her the file. Meet the Destroyer of Worlds. We don't know those. They don't show it to us. So I guess this is the bug room? And she says your private hell courtesy of Cassandra Nova. So this is a real head trip, this issue. She shows him when he's a little boy. Scott, I guess, could never trust his powers. He never felt comfortable having his power because he was always terrified that he might hurt people. So she really just rips up his psyche. Once again, these beautiful blues that Laura Martin does. And I guess what really makes him snap is one day when he was a little boy, he he didn't do anything about it, but in his brain, he vowed that he wouldn't give a damn. It's like, I don't know, I'm just going to live. Who cares if I accidentally kill some people? And we see a tear come out from behind his glasses. And she says, you can let go now. I like this Kitty and Peter come down. And, you know, Logan's got, like, heightened senses. So he just says, about time. He can smell it on him. And we see Beast in his laboratory. And he looks up and it's Cassandra. And now we go back to Scott's room. And look, he doesn't have his glasses on. But no force beams are coming out and he's drooling. It looks like Emma succeeded. We hear her voice say, you're free, my love. You're free. Pretty intense issue. Now we got number 15. Really nice cover here. Oh, so here's the names of that, the Hellfire Club. It's Cassandra Nova. That's her last name. And that young goth girl, her name is Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I think she was in a Deadpool movie or something, but I've never read a comic with her. It's interesting. We see Emma walk away after, betraying Scott, but she's crying. She runs into the kitchen. She pretends to be worried. She says, guys, Scott's gone. He needs help. Meanwhile, Cassandra Nova, she's the most powerful she's like right behind Charles Xavier. And you could tell the Beast is terrified of her because his greatest fear is losing his humanity and being a beast. And he knows that with the snap of her finger, this woman could just erase his humanity, turn him into a whatever, a ravenous animal. So some of the X-Men go up to check on Scott. And of course, Emma's playing dumb. She's like, oh, he was just like that when I got here. And now Kitty is going to check on the students. And she sees that, I'll just call her Negasonic. And she just assumes it's one of the students she doesn't know yet, because she's pretty young. And now Sebastian Shaw shows up in Colossus, where Colossus is. Colossus starts beating the crap out of him. It doesn't seem to have any effect. And I know Colossus has been through a lot, but he knows his powers. He's fought him many times. So it is kind of dumb that he's doing this. Because every time he punches him, it makes him stronger. He absorbs the kinetic force. And I guess Negasonic has this power where she basically has dreams and they come true. So I guess they're precognitive dreams. So she says, I dreamed you phased away. I dreamed you couldn't stop. And that's what happens. Kitty starts phasing through the earth. And she can't stop it. And then Cassandra Nova got to Wolverine. I should give you the intro to this. We see Wolverine's eyes. But the ball lady forgot one thing. I'm the best at what I do. And what I do is so terribly pretty. And Logan is making little paper dolls. And look at his face. He's totally, she totally wiped his brain and turned him into like a little girl. Isn't it the best, Miss Nova? Say mine is the best, or I shall be so cross with you. So it's kind of weird for the next 2 issues seeing Logan like this. And we see that apparently she turned Beast, Hank McCoy, into a true beast. And now he's chasing Logan around. We see Kitty just going through the Earth's crust, going through the magma. She can't stop herself. And back to Colossus beating the crap out of Sebastian Shaw. The whole time Scott Summers is just staring at them from his bed. He can't move, but he's crying. And Wolverine bursts into this girl's bathroom where Hasuka is, talking to Blindfold. And she's like, help me. There's a tiger, only blue and large as a moose, chasing me. And the Beast is totally gone. He's totally turned into an animal. They really, Cassaday does a good job at making him look actually scary. So Hasuka fights him off. It's another great panel. I really like this Hasuka girl. I could read a whole comic about her. And now we're back at the peak, the Sword headquarters. And there's Ord from Break World still in his jail cell. And now that Sebastian Shaw finally turns the tables on Colossus. My power is I absorb kinetic energy. You have given me a lot of power just now. And he totally slams Colossus's ears, and he just totally topples. So it looks like their job is done. They've taken out the X-Men. And they look out the window, and we see Beast chasing Logan across the grounds. And now we see Kitty in the Earth's crust. And she finally, through pure willpower, stops her descent. And she turns solid in this underground cavern somewhere. And she says, all right, Emma. You brought me in. You made your move. Now it's my turn. And look at this total homage to that famous Wolverine panel where he's under the Hellfire Club. Kind of funny. Doesn't really pay off, though. So Kitty Pryde gets a nice cover shot there. This is number 16. So now we're at the peak, the Sword headquarters, and Ord is freaking out because Ord now knows that the X-Man who's going to destroy Breakworld is Colossus, the one he brought back to life. So he's obviously pissed off. Pretty coincidental there. So he escapes with the help of Danger. So Danger's back, the robot that was the Danger Room. Meanwhile, back in Westchester, Logan is terrified, running away from the Beast. It's pretty funny, his thoughts. You know, he basically sounds like Little Lord Fauntleroy. Now we see Haruka in blindfold. They see Peter and Scott Summers down for the count. And finally, they find Kitty Pryde. And they compare notes. Meanwhile, back to the chase here. Look at Logan, he's just terrified. It's weird to see his face like this. Beast is really a savage. I mean, Beast bites his leg. And then, without him even realizing it, Logan's claws pop. I guess it's just an instinct, you know? So this thing here, this is the whole raison d'etre of this whole Hellfire Club scheme. Apparently, this weird, amazingly defended capsule has something that Cassandra wants. And that's why she's, you know, she says that she's collected the Hellfire Club to help her get it. Even in her diamond form, Emma cannot break it open. It's got laser defenses. So they realize, and this is the whole, since Astonishing X-Men #1, this is Emma knew that she'd need Kitty to get in there and get whatever inside. So Kitty's on the grounds looking for Logan. She finds him. I'm surprised she withholds from laughing because Logan's acting ridiculous. Sorry guys, I'm still really sick. I'm gonna try to make it through this. And so Emma tells the rest of the Hellfire Club, she says, quiet, can you hear that? And she says, do you really think you can hide in there? And it's Kitty. She phases through, punches Emma, and then grabs her and pulls her through this little mirror, kicks her through the wall. But then when Emma's trying to strangle her out, she phases them both down into this little nook in the rocks. She's got Emma's head like half submerged in the rock. So she says, you do a mental blast at me, the rock's gonna get your head. It'll obliterate you. I'll let you go. So she admits to everything. She tells Kitty about how You know, she's with the Hellfire Club now. So Kitty just leaves her down there to rot. Because she can't kill her. That's not Kitty. She runs into Logan again. It's weird how Logan even looks totally different. He almost looks like he's drawn by Dave Stevens in these panels. So then we find out who this perfection robed character is, and it's the White Queen. So this is just totally confusing to me. I was like, what the hell? And even Kitty says, yeah, but what? So meanwhile, back at the Peak, Special Agent Brand has shot down the shuttle that Danger and Ord were escaping in. They're fine, though. You can't destroy them that easy. But it slows them down a little. They've got to fly into their own power. And so they know they're going to have to retrieve them. This is a great cover. Look at this. This is another cover where if I was buying this month to month, I could totally imagine being very intrigued. Like, what the hell? So this is interesting. All of a sudden, we see Kitty just gave birth to Peter's baby. They named the baby Michael. The X-Men come in. Everyone's happy. Even Professor Xavier's there. And we see Professor Xavier make a weird look at the baby, though. The years go by. We see Michael grow up. And then one day, when he's about, I don't know, 3 years old, the X-Men show up. And they say, we have to take your baby. Professor Xavier senses a power within him. It's too much. He can't be trusted. And Kitty can't fight back because Xavier shut down her power mentally. And she basically says, Peter, hold him off so I can escape. And Peter totally betrays her. Look at that look on his face. And now we see, a little while later, look at this. Kitty's got an axe handle through Peter's head, phased through. And she sees, she says, you blink and I let this go. Where's my son? So it turns out he's in the basement of the X-Mansion in a box. Back at the Peak. So Kitty heads down to the basement. And of course, what does she find? That's the box. Excuse me, guys. So this whole thing was a mental manipulation, we realize. Emma Frost made Kitty think she was pregnant and lived with her son for 3 years. That's how strong her mental powers are. And just to get her to open this box. Or to grab what's ever inside of it. Even with Kitty powers, it's tricky. It's made from a special metal. And it hurts like hell, but she actually reaches in and grabs the contents. And right then, Danger flies through the roof. Crashes through the roof, I should say. And Ord's there too. And this I don't get at all. So Wolverine, during this explosive entrance, Wolverine crashes his head against the refrigerator. It looks like he's out for a second. And when he wakes up, Or he wakes up because a can of beer drops on his head. And all of a sudden, it seems like Wolverine's back to normal by the intense look in his eyes. It's like the beer is so important to Logan that he's like, oh yeah, this is who I am. Beer, it reminds him. So of course they're there to try to find Peter to kill him. Kitty grabs her child out of this box. And Peter shows up. And of course Peter isn't the Peter from this mental fantasy. It's the real Peter. He just sees Kitty there. And he says, what are you doing, Kitty? And she says, I did what you couldn't. I saved our son. And she's holding this horrible, repulsive slug-like thing. Or pupa. And it looks like Peter just falls backwards. His eyes roll back into his head. They both seem to pass out because the Hellfire Club show up. And I'll be totally honest, I'm so confused. I was so confused reading this. I didn't really understand what was going on, but there is a good explanation. And I'm sorry. I won't take much better here. Oh yeah. So basically Cassandra Nova is gonna take over Kitty's body. Kind of get rid of this old decrepit body and take over Kitty's. And then right then you hear blam, blam, blam. And the White Queen turns around, bleeding out of her guts. And Scott says, you reminded me I don't have any claws. So Scott just blew her away. So now we have the last part of the story arc, number 18. Pretty nice cover of multiple Emma Frosts. This is some kind of cool pyrotechnics here. I assume that a lot of this is Laura Martin's work. And so we see Scott. And he's looming over Emma's injured body. Or the White Queen, I should say. He says, you ready to talk about this? Cassandra comes up behind him. Cassandra Nova. And a little too easily, he turns around, shoves the gun under her chin, and blows her away. So this is the part where I'm just like, what's going on here? What the hell? Meanwhile, Beast is still on the prowl. He runs into Blindfold. Blindfold somehow talks him down. And she says, Professor Summers, he told me that if I ever find you like this, if you ever devolve, to give you this. And it's a box. It says property of Hank McCoy. And it's a ball of yarn. Because that very, maybe second or third issue, Beast mentioned how, I might take that cure, the mutant cure, because who knows, I could mutate further and end up, licking my own balls and playing with a ball of yarn like a stupid cat, So now we're back in the mansion. The two bad guys here are still looking for Peter. And then Scott Summers is still casually killing all of these Hellfire Club guys with a gun. I'm pretty sure you can't kill Sebastian Shaw, which is the bullet. But that's what we're seeing. He kills Negasonic, the goth one. He says, Peter, I'm not shooting people. I'm just trying to make a point. So then we see Asuka once again pops out. She's going to kick the shit out of Ord and Danger. She's doing pretty good for a teenage girl. And then Logan comes in. And Logan starts shredding. Actually beheads Danger. That name is so dumb that I keep finding it hard to say. If you notice, I keep pausing. I don't want to... It's like, no, it can't be that. But it is. That's the name, Danger. So now we see Peter and Kitty. And we realize that green blob is this incredibly powerful thing that'll destroy everyone. That's why Cassandra Nova wanted it. We get back to the big fight here. Now they switch sparring partners. And then Hank McCoy shows up with his brains back. He uses some kind of magnetic thing to take Danger and Ord out of the game, out of the fight. Turns out that ball of string, actually, it wasn't just a ball of string. It had like pheromones in it and a smart drugs. So it basically healed his brain. So everyone's trying to make sense of what the hell's going on. All of a sudden, the White Queen is running around with her old haircut, her old costume. And so now I don't think it's much of a spoiler. The real Emma Frost is still in her hole deep under the ground. And Kitty comes to get her out. So here we find the whole reason. Scott's the one who figured it all out. He says there is no Hellfire Club. Did any of you ever see more than one of them at a time? And we see Cyclops, when he was fighting Sebastian Shaw, there was no one there. Just like that scene in Fight Club, you know? So, you know, because Scott was there, and Scott just saw Peter punching the air. So what we find out, in a very kind of convoluted way, is that it was Emma, but Emma was being controlled by Cassandra Nova. Emma turned Cassandra Nova into that slug, into that pupa that Kitty freed. But as basically a last Hail Mary, Cassandra jumped into Emma's brain just a little bit. It was just a tiny suggestion, too small to notice, but clamped onto Emma's greatest weakness. And her greatest weakness was survivor guilt from surviving Genosha, and for going along with Sebastian Shaw in the first place and becoming part of the Hellfire Club. So Emma really was trying to be good, but then she had this little mental time bomb in her head that Cassandra Nova left that was corrupting her and led her to all of this. But it's not really her. And Scott basically tells Emma, he says, you can send Cassandra back. You can, like, free yourself from her. Kitty just wants to shoot Emma in the head. She's never trusted her. And it's weird. Emma says, go to hell. So I don't know if that's the Cassandra part of her. And right then, Danger and Ord jump in the window, ready to attack the X-Men. And then, like a Deus Machina, right then, Sword zaps them all up into their ship. And they head off to Break World. And we see some of the students. And Blindfold tells them how the X-Men have gone far away. This kid says, oh, they'll be back. And Blindfold says, not all of them. So we have a little cliffhanger there Once again, the X-Men are going to be in outer space. Some of the great classic X-Men stories took place in outer space, so this could be fun. So, I think this is my least favorite arc so far. It was a little convoluted, all this crazy mental business. I still can't really wrap my head around it, and but I still got some good humor going on, great dialogue between the characters, some good soap opera stuff and shit like that, and some pretty kick-ass fight scenes and stuff. Mostly, though, I'm reading these for John Cassaday's art, and it's just every page is pretty much a stunner. There's a few faces that are a little every now and then. I didn't really point them out, but for the most part, it's damn good superhero art. So that's it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.